Okay, everybody. I think this is going to be the last part for Volume 2. Maybe. It depends how long it'll take. If it is, it's more likely to be a long one. So if you've gotten this far in the series and you want to see more, I would recommend subscribing so that way, you get notified whenever I upload again for this or what other stuff you like. Essentially, I almost said shows. Not yet. Anyway, 9, welcome home. 3 days later, we stood at the border checkpoint. It was there that we said goodbye to the soldiers sent to guard us. Our empire will be back to its rich self in no time. Please come back to visit again, they said as we separated, heading back. Please show proof of your status, the knight on the Chrono Wise side asked us. Miss Micah pulled out the stone necklace with Lord Royce's emblem, and the knight nodded, being used to seeing it. Next, I presented the brooch, showing I was part of Margrave's sergeant's family, and he bowed respectfully. Lastly, Lord Glenn flashed him something on the inside of his coat, and the man looked absolutely shocked. What, does he carry around an emblem for the royal family or something? After that, the 4 knights that had been with us showed their identification, and we were all let through. Ignore that. That was my nephew's tablet. Why was the knight so surprised, I asked, Lord Glenn in the carriage, only to get a bitter smile back. I was told I had to bring proof of my royalty since we were going to a foreign country. I could have just got through with my appraiser license. So that was what was under his coat. I wanted to know what it was, but it probably wasn't a good idea to ask to see under his clothes, so I stayed quiet. I mean, if it's under his coat, it's still above his clothes. Like, if you opened up your coat, it could be, pinned on the inside of your coat, so it's not like he was seeing underneath his clothes, per se, Once we got through the border crossing, we headed straight for the Margrave's manor and stopped in front of the entrance. Looking out the window, I saw that everyone who worked there was lined up outside. First, Miss Micah got out, followed by Lord Glenn. I was the last and managed to nearly fall out before he caught me. Thank you, I said in a rush while he looked above my head. You're not hurt, but it seems you're tired from all the traveling. Let's stay here and rest for a few days. Apparently, he'd used his appraisal skill to make sure I wasn't injured. Okay, I didn't feel that tired, but I nodded anyway. Just like when we first arrived, my adoptive father said something to Lord Glenn, and they headed inside the manor. As I watched them go, my adoptive mother stood right in front of me. Welcome home, Chelsea. I'm home, Mother. She gave me a huge smile and a gentle hug. I felt like I should treasure her warmth. Yeah, definitely. Treasure the family you got now. You must be exhausted from your trip. Have a good rest, all right? But who might this be? Mother loosened her arms, looking toward Miss Micah. That's Miss Micah, my new personal chef. I'm Micah. Leave all of Chelsea's cooking to me from now on, she beamed while proudly puffing out her chest. My adoptive mother tilted her head a bit, looking towards one of the people lined up to greet us. She's saying to leave it to her, but... How do you feel about that, head chef? I followed her gaze to an older man wearing a white chef's coat and hat who was staring at Miss Micah expressionless. No, the head chef shook his head. I'll have to see her cooking skill first. That's true. I'd like for her to show how good she is. Let's have a cooking competition for supper. Micah, was it? Will that be all right with you? Of course. I'll make something delicious. Miss Micah replied, nearly jumping with joy. Her tail was wagging back and forth. Mother smiled softly, seeing how happy she was. After that, we headed inside the manor, and I went to my room to rest. Lord Glenn had gone to talk with my adoptive father in the parlor, while Miss Micah headed for the kitchen to prepare for dinner. Isn't it weird how I'm the only one resting at that? Well, I mean, your mana pool is obviously low, so that could have an impact on, traveling for you. It might make you a little bit more susceptible to being tired afterward. Mumbling to myself, I said, I wonder if there's anything I could do. Hearing me, kitten-form L thumped his tail on the sofa he was laying on. What about making seeds and storing them? What kind of seeds? You never know when you may go hungry, so you could make some pumpkin seeds to ensure you always have food. And it may also be good to make some blue or sky lily seeds beforehand in case the miasma ever appears. El replied, tilting his head as he thought. You also have your own personal garden at the Citadel, do you not? You could also make seeds to plant there, and since we do not know what could happen from now on, perhaps you should make elixir seeds as well. Ooh, yeah, you need to hide those. Keep those safe. As he spoke, all the seeds he mentioned popped up in my head. That's a good idea. I'll make a bunch of seeds then. Tilting my head up to think of what to make, the first one to come to mind was, I'll make an elixir seed. Seed creation. With a light pop, a round orange seed that could fit in the palm of both my hands appeared. If anyone in my family ever gets sick, it'd be best for me to have one on hand and give them as soon as possible. You should use your bracelet to put the seeds you create in your spirit world storage. I nodded and mentally asked for them to take the seed. As it did, it vanished. My bracelet sparkled too, so it seemed that they had reached my spirit storage room. Next, I'll make a coconut palm seed creation. As soon as it popped into existence, I willed it to my storage and it disappeared. After that, I made pumpkin seeds, blue and sky lily seeds, vegetable seeds like potatoes and carrots, flower seeds like rose, pansy, and anemones, and had the spirits store all of them. Every time I did, the bracelet glittered, so the spirits in charge of my storage might have been happy. Thinking that they were just made me want to make and send even more, but since I didn't want to faint from using all my mana creating too many either, I stopped right at 20. A while after I finished making seeds, Brother Sykes and Brother Felix came by my room. "We're here to get you, as it's nearly time for dinner," Brother Sykes said, giving me a big smile. As we headed to the larger dining room, he moved over to my right, saying, "Let's hold hands so you don't fall." Before I could answer, he'd already taken my hand in his. "That's not fair, Cy!" Brother Felix cried, quickly walking to my left side and taking my hand. "You won't be able to fall if we're holding both your hands." "Aw, they're adorable. They're sweet. I like them. She has a good family now." I didn't really get it, but we'd already started walking again. "I heard that tonight's dinner is going to be a competition between the head chef and the chef you brought, Chelsea." "Yes, she's a foxwoman named Miss Micah, and she's a really great chef." "I guess I'll look forward to it then," said Brother Sykes, and I nodded back. Once we got to the dining room, everyone else was already there. Just like before, I sat between my grandparents. Then the food was brought in. The fish sauté, little meat pies, and salads were made by all the chefs together, but the 2 plates of risotto that came in last were made by Miss Micah and the head chef. One had a red rim while the other had a blue one, but both were full of mushrooms. Tonight we're having a cooking competition to test the skills of Chelsea's personal chef, Miss Micah, against our head chef, announced Mother. "These are 2 plates of risotto, so once you're done eating, we'll ask which one everyone liked best." My grandmother brought her hands together happily, a smile across her face, while my father and grandfather forced smiles as if they were thinking, "Not this again." I'm guessing that this happens a lot? Though it shouldn't, so why are they saying "not this again"? After saying my prayers, I ate my salad, then continued to the fish sauté and little meat pie. Lastly, I had the 2 risotto in order to compare them. Both had chicken and mushrooms, but the red rim plate tasted like what I was used to. The blue rim one, on the other hand, tasted completely different. There was something peculiar about the flavor, just like the Chinese rice porridge that Miss Micah made before. I took another bite from the red-rimmed plate, but now the taste felt like it lacked the same impact. The blue-rimmed risotto is definitely yummier, but I like it. I looked up as I thought that and locked eyes with Mother. "Okay, everyone raise your hand." Wait, hang on. What was it? What did she say about that? Hold on. Okay, the red rim one I'm thinking was made by head chef. Okay, everyone raise your hands for whichever one you prefer. First, our red rim risotto. Grandfather raised his hand, but no one else did. Oh, it's a sting! It's a burn! That's a 3rd-degree burn, dude! Oh, poor guy. Next, the blue rim risotto. Everyone, including Grandfather, raise their hands. Is it okay to raise your hand for both? I looked over to him and he gave me a grin back. Next, let's call for the chef who prepared the blue-rimmed risotto. A maid headed toward the kitchen at Mother's command. "I like both, so I raised my hand for both," he explained. "You're supposed to only raise your hand for one of them. Don't follow Grandfather's example, okay?" Teaching Chelsea weird ideas. "Really, Grandfather?" Both of my older brothers chided him in response. I looked over to Lord Glenn and he gave me a bit of a forced smile, so they must have been right. Just as I was thinking that, the maid came back with Miss Micah. The head chef was behind them, wringing his hat in his hands. "So the blue rim plate was yours, Micah?" Mother asked, getting a nod back from the foxwoman. "We're now sure of her skills, so she'll be in charge of Chelsea's meals from now on. Is that all right, chef?" "Yes." The head chef nodded meekly before bowing to Miss Micah. "I apologize for doubting your abilities." "Oh, it's fine. It's an important thing to do." Her tail was weighing back and forth. The head chef straightened before bowing again. "Please teach me how to make your risotto. I like to know the difference that made everyone choose it." Seemingly surprised by the request, Miss Micah's tail puffed up. "I'm a beast man, you know. Is that still okay? Cooking has nothing to do with race. I want to make delicious food." "Okay," she said, smiling happily, tail wagging. After dinner, I was shuffled off for a bath and told to go to bed early since I must have been exhausted. After the maids helped me bathe and I got changed, I realized how heavy and sluggish I felt. I tried heading for my bed in a daze, but my legs gave out before I could make it, and I plopped down on the floor. A maid rushed to steady me, helping me to the bed. "Miss, you're burning up," she cried, signaling for the other maids to move. As I watched them blankly, Mother showed up. She looked upset as she touched my forehead, grimacing. "Your fever is high," she said, giving me a pat on the head and putting a damp cloth on my forehead. "That feels cool and nice and cool." A bit later, my adoptive father and Lord Glenn came to see me. Lord Glenn stared at the spot above my head. "My appraisal skill says it's from exhaustion. Kira can't heal things like this." He looked like he was in more pain than I was, standing beside my bed. I have to tell him I'm okay, but I was too tired to speak, and before I knew it, I had lost consciousness. When I woke up the next morning, my fever hadn't gone down. I still felt so sluggish that I didn't want to eat anything. When I told that to the maids, Miss Micah appeared a while later with some Chinese rice porridge. "At least have a bite. If you don't, your stamina will decrease and it will take longer for you to get better." That wouldn't be good. I don't want to cause any more trouble for Lord Glenn. The thought made me eat a single bite, and before I knew it, I'd eaten the whole thing. Dang, girl! Good girl. It's full of nutrients, so you should get better in no time, she said, patting my head before leaving. The day after that, I still felt heavy, but my fever was down. I need to get better quickly so we can get back to the research institute. When Lord Glenn came to my room to check on me, I asked about our plans. When are we going back to the capital? After you get a bit more rest, he told me, not specifying a date. Oh no, what if we've been so delayed that he can't even tell me? I withered, feeling terrible. Lord Glenn gave me a worried smile and patted me on the head. We're already planning to spend a few days here, and I've sent word to the capital, so don't worry and focus on getting some rest. I want you to feel better as soon as possible, but don't force yourself. Hang on. I'm turning this stupid thing off so I don't have to hear it anymore. Power off. Okay. Okay, his kind words made me smile. A few days after that, I got laid up with another fever. My appraisal says it's a mana fever this time, Lord Glenn said, looking upset again after he appeared with Mother. Why is he always making that face? Despite thinking it odd, I felt too heavy to speak. A mana fever, the kind that young children get that lasts for about a week and makes them drowsy. He nodded. They happen when the balance between your body and mana pool breaks down. Kira can't heal this one either. But it's because she's finally getting proper nutrients? I think so. Getting sick at age 12 from something that usually happens to little kids. I felt bad, as if my body was telling me it was too young. Because of my mana fever, I spent the rest of the day dozing off. At one point when I was dimly conscious, I heard my adopted father and Lord Glenn talking. Chelsea should stay here at the manor for a while to recover. You're right, even if her fever broke, a carriage ride would probably be too hard on her right now. She needs to rest. Your Highness, please go ahead and return to the palace first. Lord Glenn is going to go back first? But I made a promise to Chelsea. Then you can forget that promise. Her family will protect her. Would he forego our promise? I can't just forget it without getting her permission first, Lord Glenn said, dropping his tone. Your Highness, as I told you before, you will eventually come to a point where you cannot protect Chelsea anymore. Please give her back to her family before then. Okay. Before I realized that I was in tears, begging, no, don't leave me. I'm not leaving you. Everything's okay, he murmured, softly patting me on the head. His words relaxed me, and soon after I'd fallen back into a deep sleep. And I'm guessing this next chapter is going to be what Glenn and her father talk about. Oh, never mind. Recuperation. About a week after my mana fever first appeared, it had broken and my drowsiness had faded as well. Just when I thought we could finally leave for the capital, Sergeant Margraviot's personal healer stopped me. Mana fevers occur when your mana pool, which is where your mana collects in your body, fall out of balance. When this happens, your body tends to rush to grow and accommodate your larger mana pool. This would mean that even if you were to leave for the capital as you are now, you would just fall sick again on the way. You should wait anywhere from a month to 6 months to see how you feel. A month to half a year? There was no way I could make Lord Glenn wait that long for me. He had matters to attend as a royal, as a duke, and as a praiser. Even just from what I could imagine, he should be really busy. He should go back before I do. I decided to tell him that. Lord Glenn visited me every day. Today he came in the morning, immediately using his appraisal skill to check how I was doing. Looks like your mana fever is gone, he said, patting me on the head. The healer said that I'm going to have a growth spurt. He nodded. Actually, I had one when I was little too. It was tough. He also said that we'll need to see how things go for a month, maybe up to 6 months. Oh yeah, it took around that long, huh? He was still giving me his usual soft smile. If I was going to say it, it would have to be now. Lord Glenn. He tilted his head a bit. Please go back first. When I said it straight like that, his eyes widened and he looked shocked. In a tone harsher than usual, he said, Is someone telling you to say that? I shook my head. No, I'm saying it because I've been thinking about it. I can remember Father telling Lord Glenn to return first back when I was barely conscious. I would be lying if I said that hadn't sparked the thought, but no one was making me say it. He looked at me silently with a sour look on his face. It's been 10 days already since we first arrived. A month to 6 months is way too long, I said decisively. After giving me a big sigh, he mumbled, I don't want to leave you. He sounded like a child, frowning. I was surprised to see a side of him I'd never seen before, but there's no way I could be selfish like that, he continued, smiling wryly. I'll go back first, but I'm going to come back for you once you're better. The following morning, Lord Glenn and the Guardian Knights left for the capital. I'd been sighing a lot since Lord Glenn went home. Even while I ate the food Miss Micah made for me, I would think things like how it was his favorite too, and sigh to myself. When I walked around the manor for some exercise, I'd stop in front of the guest room he'd stayed in, remembering how we studied and how we'd made up our blueprint, and sigh again. I thought about when we met, when we had our secret tea party, and when we held hands. That made me sigh too. Why was I sighing so much when I thought of him? Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Since I couldn't figure it out on my own, I asked Mother and Miss Micah for advice. I just can't think of a reason for it. Do you two have any ideas? When I told them everything, Mother gave me a satisfied smile while Miss Micah's eyes sparkled as she wagged her tail. Chelsea, dear, you have absolutely no clue why it's happening? No, I don't, I replied, shaking my head. In your case, it might be a bit hard for you to figure it out on your own since you're lacking in fundamental knowledge. And it might be better to tell her straight out. Yeah, you better be straight with her, else if you try and dance around it and be subtle, she's never gonna figure it out. You're right, let's make it crystal clear. They were looking at each other and nodding. It seemed that they'd gotten friendlier at some point. I'm guessing they did. I mean, she's your personal chef. Of course your mother's going to want to keep tabs on that and make sure that you're getting, good food and probably find out some recipes herself. Chelsea? Yes? You're in love with His Highness, Mother said. I blinked a few times. Love? I thought the fairy story book I read before said that when you think of someone as precious and feel all sorts of emotions for them, now that I think about it, I might have felt those things when I thought about Lord Glenn. You want to see him as soon as you can, don't you? I nodded. That was when I finally awakened to the fact that I loved him. The moment I did, my face went red. Did what I said before tell them just how much I love him? Once I realized I couldn't bear the embarrassment. Oh, poor thing. I wonder if Glenn feels the same way. That might have been why he wasn't too keen on leaving her behind. He might have grown attached to her, too. You look positively adorable. Girls become beautiful when they're in love. I'm going to support your romance all the way, Mother said. We should send him a formal engagement proposal so you can become his fiancé. Oh no! Have they already talked about this, or has he not figured it out yet? Oh god, because I remember her father had mentioned to him in their last meeting that we know of that they should become engaged because then that would be the best of both worlds. He could still protect her, and he wouldn't have to worry about it, but Glenn didn't really give him an answer on that. I froze at her suggestion. I'd realized I was in love, but I hadn't thought enough to get engaged. What's wrong? She asked, looking at me curiously. It wouldn't be appropriate for a child like me to be his fiancé, I said, tears welling up. Before I'd been adopted into the Sargent family, back when I lived in the barony, I'd barely been fed, so I was only about as tall as an 8-year-old, despite being 12. Lord Glenn always treated me like a kid, too, carrying me and patting my head. A proposal from me would only end up troubling him. Just as I felt like my future was bleak, Mother spoke up. Our healer told you you'll be going through a growth spurt after your mana fever, didn't he? You'll be taller in no time. When they did say I would go through a growth spurt, but so that meant I'd get taller. I can't talk today. If I was taller, he might not think of me as a child as much anymore. Maybe. It depends on how big of a growth spurt it is. Now, if you end up growing to where you should be as a 12-year-old, maybe, because you would only have 3 more years, technically almost 2, because I think you're almost 13 at this point, to become of age. Seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, I clutched my hands together as if I was going to pray. We have to start that plan of ours. We'll go all in. What do they mean by plan? Oh, they've been planning! They've been scheming! I want to know the details! I'm nosy. I want to know. As I looked at both of them in confusion, they both gave me comforting smiles. Our plan is to have everyone in the manor help make you into a wonderful lady. I gave a firm nod. Back at the barony, I was never allowed to study properly, and what I learned back at the research institute was all superficial. If it was at all possible, I would love to become a proper lady. But we've got to edit the plan a bit. We'll make you into a lady fit for His Highness. Yes, that's a better idea. Mother clapped happily at Miss Micah's suggestion. So, Chelsea, while you're here, we'll have you study to become a lady fit for him. Okay, please do. Since I want to teach you proper gesture, speech, and conduct, we'll have to postpone your return to the capital for about half a year. I mean, technically, she probably would have had to stay for half a year anyway, so this actually works out. I just realized how badly I wanted to see Lord Glenn, and they're going to make me wait the full 6 months before going back. I mean, they were probably going to anyway, so I blanked out from the shock, and Mother smiled at me. Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder, she said, telling me about how she and Father had exchanged letters between when they first were engaged and when they married. She had originally lived in the capital, so they'd been separated until the wedding. Sometimes you can write things in letters that you couldn't say out loud. She wouldn't tell me what she'd written, But the happy smile on her face told me that she had wonderful memories of it, whatever it was. I'm guessing they were kind of risque, possibly. How about you write letters too? Okay, I said, nodding in agreement. I'd never thought I'd ever be able to write Lord Glenn any letters, so I was excited. I'll do my best. I clenched my fist as I announced it, and both of the older women grinned. The next day, I told Elle about the letters. Then I will deliver it for you. I may even deign to bring back a reply. I didn't let him know that acting self-important in his tiny kitten form was just cute. Apparently he can move between my bracelet and other spirit trees just like Green. I won't be able to protect you while I'm away, but Glenn put up a barrier around this manor before he left. As long as you stay here, you should be safe. I was so happy to hear that he was protecting me like that. If it makes my mistress that happy, I could do it once in a while. Thank you. After saying my thanks, I immediately went to write my letter, but Elle stopped me. It takes 10 days to travel from here to the capital. Glenn would not be there yet. I wouldn't be able to deliver it. I didn't think of that. I went quiet, embarrassed as my face got hotter and hotter. I was probably bright red. They say love is blind. Alas. In an attempt to hide my shame, I rubbed Elle's belly as much as possible. Okay, here we go. Interlude. Glenn. Once we returned to the capital from the Sergeant Margraviat, I retired to my room. There, Elle showed up in kitten form. I quickly sent the servants away to speak to him. What are you doing here? Making Lady Chelsea happy, he replied, throwing the letter he'd been holding under his leg. Catching it, I checked who the sender was and saw Chelsea written in clumsy handwriting. Did something happen, I thought? I felt more worried than happy, and once I ripped the letter open, I saw that it was a request for me to wait half a year before I went back for her. Apparently, aside from health reasons, she wanted to get some lady training in as well. Back in Utah Asperity, she hadn't been able to do any proper studying. At the Royal Research Institute, we'd only really done any during breaks in her skill research, and while we had our mana pool increasing tea parties, this was a good opportunity for her. Will you be writing a reply? Of course I will. I promised Lady Chelsea that I'll return with any replies once you finish. Is it okay if I take a few days? I'll be returning immediately if the barrier you put up is a weak one, but it isn't, correct? No, I made it even stronger than the one around the Origin Spirit Tree. Huh. You have a soft spot for her. I looked away when he said that, not answering. Oh, he's still not, Oh boy, this could be interesting. By the next morning, I had finished up my reply. In it, I told her I'd definitely come to meet her in half a year. I told her about telling her how my journey home had gone, but I stopped because it wasn't terribly interesting. The same night I arrived home, I went to my brother, the king's office. Once I was inside, I had him send the servants away. I've just returned, I reported, and he gestured for me to sit on the sofa. I'm glad you're safe, but isn't there something else you want to say, he asked, sitting across the low table from me looking amused. Chelsea, the research fellow, has come down with a mana fever, so she'll be recuperating in her family's territory for half a year. Of course. A growing child would need time to recuperate after a mana fever. Since we were far apart in age, he must have remembered what had happened back when I'd gotten one. We'll retain her research fellow position here and treat her recuperation as temporary leave. I was relieved to hear that he wasn't going to end her duties. Anything else? Taking a deep breath, I told him in half a year, I'm returning to the Sergeant Margraviat to bring her back. Not a request, but a statement, huh? I nodded. Sending someone to escort her back is fine, but is there some reason a royal like you should go personally? He was tilting his head curiously, but he had a grin plastered on his face. He knows his brother better than anyone! He probably knows how he has feelings for her. And he probably doesn't even realize it. If Chelsea was going to try to change, I would too. If I couldn't say it here, though, I wouldn't be able to tell her. I looked straight at my brother. I'm going to propose marriage to her! Okay, so this works out perfectly. It would be a terrible loss if we lost a skill as useful as hers. If she was to marry another noble, there would probably be some unnecessary conflicts, he said, playing dumb. I took another deep breath. I don't want to marry her politically. I want to marry her because I want her. So essentially, it's not an arranged marriage, but one for love. That's good. I declared only for my brother to burst out laughing. You finally said it! Took you long enough. He knew. He knew the whole fucking time, probably. He knew for the past almost year that he has had a crush on her. Once he finished laughing, he tilted his head questioningly. The girl looks very young, does she not? Would that mean that you're a lolicon? Where did you learn that word? Is his brother a reincarnator too? I'm gonna laugh if that is the case. Oh, no. Wait a minute. The word he learned from the Reincarnator Dictionary passed down through the royal family. Is this a skill? Is all the family reincarnations? Or is this just something that he made as a reincarnator and it's just passed down through the royal family like a regular book? Someone tell me, please? Because I would love to know. The author, I think her name was Millie, or something like that. Something like that. Millie Graham, something like that. Milligram, whatever. If you're listening to this, thank you so much for making this series. It's an amazing series so far. I love it. And, is that the case? Is that a skill, or is that just a regular book he wrote when he was reincarnated here? I don't know. I had always worried about that. Royce had said that beastmen don't judge based on outward age or size, since they can change them whenever they want. Back when I'd imagined Chelsea as an adult and as an old woman, but I realized that my feelings for her didn't change. Which meant I didn't fall in love with her appearance. I mean, she was really beat up the first time I met her. It's more accurate to say that I fell in love with her heart. Aw, it's sweet. I get it. You don't have to go on about your love. Damn, did I say that all out loud? I understand you from my standpoint as your older brother, he said before switching to his attitude to that of a ruler. But as king, I will have Chelsea, adopted daughter of the Margrave Sergeant, engaged to Royal Prince Glenarnold Snowflake. What? My brother. No, the king was going to have us engaged by royal decree, which meant that it would look like a political marriage. We can't have that girl running loose. You understand, don't you? Chelsea's skill allowed her to create any seed she wished for. She could make a seed to charm and rule the world, or make one that would spout and poison and destroy it. If you hadn't wanted to marry her, I was going to have her engaged to the crown prince. He's only 3 years old! Wait a minute. So Glenn Arnold isn't the crown prince? I mean, I know he's the Duke of Snowflake, but does that make him ineligible to be the crown prince, or did he choose not to be the crown prince? And if I couldn't, I'd thought about having her confined in a tower or having her mana sealed. Chelsea hasn't done anything wrong yet. In fact, she's working to make the kingdom flourish. No, to bring the world peace. Then you'll just have to protect her as her fiancé, won't you? My brother said, laughing. Then give me a magic tool from the treasury to protect her. All right, take whatever you want. I'd meant for it to be an impossible request as revenge, but he immediately agreed. Earlier, I'd found a ring-shaped magic tool in the treasury that would automatically cast defensive magic in the case that the wearer was attacked. Once we were engaged, she might get into conflicts with other women, and I needed that ring to nip them in the bud before they started. Yes, definitely on that one, because jealousy is an ugly color on anybody, especially women, because women can be very, very petty. They hold grudges. Do your best to stop her from thinking it's political, he said, chasing me out of the room. Oh my god, how did he figure that out? From then on, I did my best to eat and sleep properly and studied a lot. Miss Micah made me lots of food full of ingredients good for the body, and thanks to that, I got a bunch taller. How tall? Unfortunately, though, I was still a bit shorter than the average 12-year-old, so you're almost about as tall as you're supposed to be, essentially, at this age. Growing taller meant growing pains, and there were days I couldn't even move. Those days I'd have chats together with my mother and grandmother. They'd use a more ladylike tone than they usually did, which led to me using one more naturally, too. Other than that, I was happy to have learned of a new side of Lord Glenn thanks to the half year that we exchanged letters. I just kept wanting to see him more and more. Honestly, it was difficult. Finally, after 6 months had passed, the Royal Research Academy was sending an escort to bring me back. My latest letter from Lord Glenn even said that he'd be coming with them. I was so excited to see him that I could barely sleep the night before. My impatience was palpable. I know. I knew they weren't due to arrive until around sunset, but I couldn't stay still. I kept pacing back and forth from the entrance hall to my room while the maids watched me warmly. Chelsea, why don't you try calming down a little? All right, I'm sorry, Mother. After being scolded, I decided to wait in my room quietly. Milady, the carriage will be arriving soon. Nodding to the maid who came to report, I quickly walked to the entrance. After checking to make sure my hair and clothes weren't messed up, I straightened myself up and went outside. As soon as the carriage had just arrived, I saw Lord Glenn step out slowly, his dark blue hair like the night and lighter blue eyes that seemed to suck you in. No matter how many times I saw him, he was always so beautiful as the angels from fairy tales. While I stood there, enchanted, our eyes met. I subconsciously averted my gaze, looking down. I was so happy to finally see him again, but so embarrassed at the same time. I didn't know what to do. My face felt hot. I was definitely blushing bright red. As I hid my face behind my hands, I could feel someone approach me. You're Chelsea, aren't you? Yes, I nodded immediately, hearing his gentle voice. You're so tall and ladylike now. I won't even be able to pat your head easily anymore. Yeah, because I think how tall has she gotten? She said she was about as tall as an 8-year-old, so how tall is she now? And how tall is Glenn? Because we don't even know how tall he is in comparison. You know? he said, kneeling in front of me. Since I was facing down, our eyes met again. He wasn't smiling his usual gentle smile. Instead, he was staring at me with a stern expression. I couldn't look away, having never seen him like that before. We looked at each other for a while before his expression softened, eyebrows drooping and looking troubled. I don't think I'm going to be able to... Oh, no. What's he doing? I don't think I'm going to be able to hold back, he murmured, giving me another hard look as he pulled out a small box from his item box. I'm assuming that item boxes are really common in this world, because nobody's really questioned it. So, then, opening it up, he showed me what was inside. Would you accept this so I can protect you properly from now on? Inside the box was a ring with a stone the same color as Lord Glenn's eyes, so essentially a nice blue sapphire. Potentially. One of the things I'd learned over the half year was that a man giving an unwed lady a ring meant they did so with the intent of marriage, and that they'd like to become engaged. I thought I must be seeing things, so I blinked a bunch of times, but the ring didn't disappear. Maybe I have to be a bit more you might need to be a bit more straightforward, because she's still kind of, dense. She was intending to want to marry you, but it's still, you have to say it. Because she might not have immediately thought he's wanting to marry me. Since I hadn't responded, he took a deep breath. You're precious to me. Please become my fiancé. My face went bright red the moment the words left his mouth. There was no way to misunderstand after he said that. Yes, I replied, quietly nodding. His stern expression morphed into a happy one. He took the ring out of the box and slipped it onto my right ring finger. Right ring finger? Don't you mean the left one? Do they do it differently in this world? Because usually it's supposed to be the left ring finger, not the right one. Because that's where the wedding ring goes too. It shrunk down to fit my finger exactly with a little sound. Since the same thing had happened when I got my spirit tree bracelet, it wasn't that surprising this time. This is an engagement ring, but it's also a magic tool that will immediately deploy defensive magic if you're threatened. I put it on your right ring finger since it doesn't come off easily. I want to keep your left one open for a wedding ring after all. Dude. I thought that don't you wear both on the left ring finger? The wedding ring and the engagement ring? I could swear you do. I don't know. Lord Glenn explained, looking at it, putting it on my right hand because he's already thinking of when we marry. The ring was a sign that wherever I went, he would be protecting me. I was so happy my chest felt as if it would burst. Standing back up, he took my hand. I looked up at him as he did and saw a dreamy smile on his face, unlike his usual look. Even then, it was still angelically beautiful and enchanting. Really? I turned to see who spoke, only to see Father standing there looking cranky. Oh, now that I think about it, we're standing in front of the entrance, and everyone who works in the manor came out to greet him, which means there are tons of people here. So essentially, you had a crowd of people watching. When I realized I'd accepted Lord Glenn's proposal in front of so many people, my face started burning again. Oh, Chelsea, you're red as a beet, Mother spoke up from beside Father, a great smile on her face. But seeing that wasn't going to make it any less red. Even if I wanted to hide my face, Lord Glenn was holding one of my hands so I could only cover my mouth. In the end, I went back inside still blushing. Lord Glenn and I sat on one side of the parlor, while Father, looking quite upset, and Mother, looking very happy, sat across from us. What, did he want to talk to Glenn before he did this? I don't know. A moment later, Miss Micah came in with the server maid, a smile also on her face. They put tea and yukon on the low table in front of us. The yukon was made by Miss Micah, and its sweetness went well with the astringent tea. It was on the way to becoming my second favorite sweet, aside from flan. After saying my prayers to the earth god, I took a bite of the yukon. The sweetness of the red bean spread through my body. When I looked over to Lord Glenn beside me, he looked extremely excited. You also like yukon? I asked, giving a happy nod back. Yes, he does. For a while after that, we talked about what happened during his journey and in the capital over the half year I was away. It was also interesting. I got into listening to him talk. Father's grumpiness soon changed to surprise and admiration as well. Once the atmosphere had lightened up a bit, Lord Glenn sat up straight and looked at Father. Can I get to the real subject now? The moment he was asked that, my adopted father looked upset again, giving a short nod in response. Then let me ask properly. Please allow my engagement to Chelsea. For nobility, engagements and marriage were also meant to strengthen the bonds between families, so they required the permission of the family head. In the case that they weren't allowed, they would only be seen as dating, and if they got married anyway without permission, they would be called eloping. Okay, makes sense. Dating was ignorable because it wouldn't cause any harm to others. Eloping, on the other hand, would cause huge problems if the next family head was to do it, and be hard on the couple themselves due to having to drop out of the aristocracy. All of this was, of course, taught to me by Mother. It was important to get proper permission first. I bowed a little bit, too, because I had also wanted it. Permission? Isn't that already decided? Father said, pulling an envelope from inside his inner coat pocket and showing us. It was an order from the king himself to have me become Lord Glenn's fiancé. Engagements ordered by His Majesty were overwhelmingly for political reasons, so did that mean ours was political too? I looked over to Lord Glenn, who gave a sad look back. Would you have given your blessings had it not been a royal decree? Certainly not. With all due respect, Your Highness, allowing her to be your fiancé would be far too dangerous. The guy is going to protect her no matter what, so I mean... Wait a minute here. Wasn't it her father who suggested to Glenn, why don't you make her your fiancé instead? Because they were discussing this whole issue about how he wouldn't be able to protect her forever. Wasn't he the one who suggested it? Why are you going back on your word now? Mother and grandmother had already told me all about the dangers Father was talking about. Since the first prince was still so young, there was the chance that Lord Glenn could be forced to become the next king. Other than that, his position as head of a duchy could lead to scuffles with other ladies. But even so, I wanted to be with him. Political marriage or not, it didn't matter to me as long as I could stay with him. I promised to protect Chelsea, so I would never let her be in any danger, he said straight out. I was relieved to see that he was prepared to protect me from whatever may come. What about the situations where you can't be there, like between women? Father countered, not backing down. I've given her a magical ring should situations such as that arise. This isn't the time for you to say thoughtless things like that. He did. He did give her the ring. It casts defensive magic whenever they feel they're threatened, essentially. So if anyone tries to get all slappy on her, they wouldn't be able to do it. James, shouldn't you give up? Soon Mother spoke up. I nodded in agreement with her. Though I was happy that my adoptive father was so worried about me, I would like for him to have a bit more trust in us. Do you think anyone able to protect her more than His Highness will ever come along? We could just keep her at home, Father said, pouting. So you prefer to have her live her life being ridiculed for missing the chance to get married just because of your selfishness. Oh! Getting called out here. Father tensed up hearing that and said nothing in response. Suffering from gossip due to being Lord Glenn's fiancé, or suffering from gossip due to having missed my chance at marriage. If I'm going to get ridiculed anyway, I'd rather it be with the one I love. Then let me ask you again. Would you allow us to marry if it wasn't by royal decree? Yes. Father finally answered reluctantly. Dude, you were the one who suggested it in the first place, so don't just shut up about it. And so, despite the fact that it was an order from the king, my engagement to Lord Glenn got family approval, and we became officially betrothed. I've got it in writing so no one can complain, he murmured as we took a walk around the manor's garden before we left. Who does he think is going to complain? When I looked at him confused, he gave me his usual angelically gentle smile and lifted a hand before pulling it back. I tilted my head again and he gave a bitter smile. Even if we're engaged, it's probably not good to pat a lady on the head, is it? Oh, he was trying to pat her on the head and he was like, oh wait, I can't. You've always thought of me as a child, after all, I murmured back, only to get some confused blinks back. No, I didn't think of you as a... Well, maybe I did. He said before looking away. Seeing his actions and how he couldn't lie, I let out a small giggle. The sound of neighing horses could be heard in the distance. It probably meant it was time to leave now. I was only here for half a year, but the people of the Sargent family were both kind and strict. It made me realize this was how families were supposed to work. I'm a bit sad that I won't be living here anymore, I whispered. Lord Glenn squeezed our linked hands. You can take holidays if we can come back together. He'll be coming with me. I gasped at the thought. His kindness made my chest feel warm. Aww. Okay. Side story. One mysterious fog. How many are we going to get? About 3 days after leaving the Sargent Manor, the horses pulling our carriage, which had been driving down the main road, slowly came to a stop. It wasn't very long since we'd left that day, so it was too soon for a break. The fact that we'd stopped meant that something was happening outside. I looked to Lord Glenn in worry, and he softly patted my back. A few moments later, we heard a knock with predetermined rhythm and number of taps from outside. This was a sign that it was safe. Just as I sighed in relief, we heard the coachman's voice. Please excuse me, I have stopped due to thick fog in our path. Looking at the coachman's podium window, things went completely white about 50 steps from where we were. That's really thick. Let's have a little break then, Lord Glenn commanded, and so we took a rest break. At typical traveling rest stops, there was usually a cabin nearby so that the coachman and the people riding in the carriage could rest too. Since we weren't at one, though, we could pitch a tent instead. The coachman couldn't leave the horses, so they would tie them up near the carriage. Stepping out from the carriage, the guardian knights had already finished pitching the tent. Thank you very much, I said, getting the knight order's characteristic grin in return. The weather's beautiful, but heavy fog is present only around here. There has to be something up, Lord Glenn muttered, staring at the fog covering the road, his hand on his chin. I feel something weird, Miss Micah said, standing with her arms crossed. Yes, something is strange, Kitten L responded from his spot on my shoulder. Unfortunately, Miss Micah couldn't hear him in kitten form, but since he was nodding, she seemed to realize he was agreeing. I will go check, he continued. With a gust of wind and the blink of an eye, Kitten L changed to his original spirit form and flew off into the fog. What? The cat turned into a person? That was no person. He was see-through, though. He was see-through. I can't take ghosts. Please don't. The knight's and coachman's eyes were widened in shock. That kitten is actually a spirit. Please make sure you don't let that slip, Lord Glenn warned, getting nods back for the groups. While I waited and ate Miss Micah's specially made soup, Spirit Ale came drifting back out of the fog. There's a large snake monster in the middle of all this. I returned because the fog blocked my vision too much to attack. It is more than 10 times longer than the carriage, and the front of it was light green and over all about this thick, he said. He told us, making a circle with his arms. If someone walked into the thick white fog without knowing that there was a monster inside, they might have been eaten in one gulp. Just a thought made me start shaking. I know that monster. Miss Micah popped up, pulling a book titled Monster Encyclopedia from her item box and flipped through it. It's this one, she said, pointing to a page with a huge snake drawn there. Oh, yes, that was it, Elnott said with a nod the moment he saw it. It's called a fog viper, and it makes thick fog, eating any being that wanders inside. Its favorite food is licorice, making it slightly sweet and delicious. Plus, it's super nutritional, she explained, eyes glowing and a look of excitement on her face. We can't leave it like it is, so let's defeat it, Lord Glenn said. All the knights nodded and let us prepare to enter the fog. The youngest of them started, only to be interrupted by a shake of the head. We wouldn't be able to see each other in fog that thick. Luckily, we know what the fog viper eats, so we can lure it out with that. Forgive my insolence, but we have no licorice root with us. It only grows in the warm regions to the south, so I doubt any nearby towns would have any. This time it was the oldest of the knights speaking up, shaking his head. That's where Chronowise's research fellow comes in, Lord Glenn said, looking over to me. Licorice was a plant, so I would be able to make seeds with my skill. Plus, any seeds I make this way would definitely bud, regardless of region. I need to create quick-growing licorice seeds with my skill, correct? Lord Glenn answered with a soft smile and a nod. Please give me back my plant encyclopedia. I whispered to my spirit tree bracelet. It popped up before my eyes, so I caught it. Next, I flipped to the page on licorice and checked what kind of plant it was. Licorice was a plant that grew leaves bigger than the palm of your hand. The seeds were brown and bigger than my thumbnail. The leaves were also very sweet, and in warm regions to the south, it was boiled into syrup. After memorizing the details from the encyclopedia, I whispered, I'll make a licorice seed that grows faster than normal that will only grow for one generation. Seed creation. With a pop, a green seed the size of my thumbnail appeared. Since normal licorice seeds were brown, I knew that it was a similar but different seed. Lord Glenn immediately used his appraisal skill on it. It's a licorice seed that'll grow quick immediately after being planted, wither in half a day, and not leave any seeds behind. I was relieved that I made the seed properly. I'll take this, he said, picking the seed out of my hands and squeezing it lightly. The knights and I will take care of the rest of it, so make sure not to leave the tent. I nodded obediently. I'll go with you. Then I will stay with Lady Chelsea, Elle announced, transferring back to his kitten form in another gust of wind and hopping on my shoulder. Do your best. Even though they will be fighting at the edge of the fog where I can still see them, I still wish them well. After all, the knights gave me big grins back. See you in a bit, Lord Glenn replied, looking happy as he walked toward the fog. Interlude Glenn. Trying hard to stop grinning like a fool because Chelsea told me to do my best, I walked toward the fog. It had a definite edge, and I stood 3 steps away from it. I am planting the licorice here. Our battle will begin as soon as I do, so get ready. After telling that to the knights from the Second Order that had to come with me from the capital, I dropped the seed to the ground with a plop. It immediately buried itself into the ground and began to sprout. From bud to leaf, it grew even bigger, leaves bigger than our heads sprouting thickly. Between these leaves were white flowers which were even bigger, and a sweet smell started wafting from them. It wasn't too strong or too sweet, and before even a minute had passed, a huge snake came slithering out of the fog toward them. At that size, I would be able to eat a human in a single bite. I reflexively gulped. Taking a closer look, there was fog still pouring from the fog viper's body. Beside me, Micah the foxwoman stood with her kitchen knives ready, wiping her mouth with her sleeve. She was probably wiping the drool off. Simple steak, grinded up into hamburger, stuff it into green peppers, even cabbage rolls would be nice. Ah, there's also the shabu option. The food name she was mumbling made me start drooling too. Add karage and gyoza to that too, okay? I murmured in a tone so low I was worried she wouldn't hear, but her eyes lit up as she looked over at me. Leave it to Micah. Chelsea loves karage too, so let's go with that. While we were chatting about that, the fog viper was ignoring us, focusing on chomping down on the licorice plant in front of it. I quickly used my appraisal skill. Fog viper, unique. A massive snake monster constantly spews fog, eating anything that wanders in. Unique skill can mix mana-draining poison into its fog. Loves licorice plants. Next, I checked the fog itself and saw that the mana-draining poison was indeed mixed in. Careful, this fog viper is unique. The fog has poison in it, so do your best not to touch it, I yelled, raising a hand. The knights all charged in at my signal, but the fog viper just used its tail to sweep them away before continuing to eat the licorice plant. It's like, nope, you're not interrupting my meal! The youngest knight was knocked back into the plant, tearing down a few leaves. Oops. What are you doing to my precious licorice? The viper screeched. Since I was a reincarnator, I could understand any language, so of course I understood what it was screaming about, but how much does it love licorice? A lot. Apparently. I could feel the tension running through the knights as the monsters cried. You're all in the way! The fog viper screeched again, spewing out more thick fog that made me lose sight of the others. Damn it! I need to get rid of this fog or it'll drain all of our mana. Gust of wind. I rushed to cast a spell. It was wind magic, near useless for attacking, but it pushed the fog up into the sky. After it faded, we could see our surroundings again, and everyone started moving. We're having karage for lunch, Micah cheered, bringing down her kitchen knife to slice through the viper's tail. The sliced tail stopped moving as she quickly touched it and put it in her item box. Now it wouldn't be able to use it to brush us off anywhere. The knights charged in again all at once while I used magic off to the side to make the weapons sharper. The fog viper was sliced into round chunks, unable to screech again. I used my appraisal skill again. Death confirmed, I reported, getting a cheer from the group of knights. Mana 2, mana drained. I watched everyone fight from the tent. The fog viper had been eating the licorice right until it was defeated. It really must have loved it. When they'd been covered by the fog, my heart was thumping in worry. After the monster was defeated, Miss Micah wagged her tail as she collected it. I guess she plans on cooking it, huh? The fog covering the road started fading, just as I was relieved that it was all over. Lord Glenn and the knights came back to where I was waiting. Welcome back. He gave me a clumsy smile back before collapsing to his knees. Uh-oh. The poison got him. Lord Glenn, I ran over to him. He was breathing heavily, facing down. The fog viper's poison got me. What kind of poison? If it wasn't an illness, Lord Glenn could heal it with his cure skill. But he wasn't even trying, which meant that it was something he couldn't cure. My seeds might be able to do something, though. Once I knew what kind of poison it was, I could counter it. It's a weird poison that drains your mana, he replied to my question slowly before falling on his back. Well, I'll be fine. After resting and having our mana restore a bit. The nuts around him started falling to the ground. Even Miss Micah collapsed. I stood there in shock. I'd collapsed twice from using my skill too much and running out of mana. This made me realize how the people around me felt, even after I told them I was alright. We cannot leave them like this, Elle said as I fluttered around with worry. Now that I thought about it, Elle had gone into the fog once to see what was inside. Was he alright? Are you okay, Elle? He gave me as arrogant a smile as a kitten could, replying, as long as we are in this world, spirits cannot be harmed. Stillball in his kitten form used something not magic but unique to spirits to carry everyone inside the tent. Their mana will be fully restored after sleeping through the night. Then we'll just have to let them sleep, I replied, only for him to shake his head. That would leave you without protection, Lady Chelsea. Furthermore, I cannot have you stay here when there is neither food nor a place to sleep. He was right. Elle and I couldn't do anything alone. Most of our food was in Miss Micah's item box. There might be stuff to eat in our packs, but I wouldn't know where. And if I went to find any, I'd have to lead the others. Going to a nearby town or forest would mean one of us would have to stay back, since we couldn't lead the sleeping group alone. I heaved a big sigh, and Elle looked at me curiously. What is wrong? I was just thinking of how useless I am, I replied, telling him how I felt. He just looked even more curious. They were only able to defeat the monster due to the seed you created, were they not? Would that not count as being useful? I made the seed, but I didn't actually do anything. Then you can do something now. Like what? As I thought over Elle's words, I suddenly remembered the elixir seed. Since it had healed Lord Royce's illness, it should be able to recover their mana. I immediately spoke to the bracelet on my left wrist. Please give me back the elixir seed I put in before. A round orange seed with a little cork appeared. This was the elixir seed I made long ago in case it was ever needed. Now is probably a good time to use it. You will need to have them drink it slowly or else they'll cough it up, Elle advised, and I nodded back. I lifted Lord Glenn's head up into my lap and pulled the cork out of the elixir seed. Then I poured just a little bit inside his mouth. It was only about a spoonful, but it was enough to wake him up. Lord Glenn, are you alright? He didn't respond, so I poured a bit more into his mouth and I saw him swallow. His hand reached up to the seed and he chugged it the moment it was in his grasp. Once he was finished, he looked a lot more lively than he had been before. This orange seed is the elixir seed you made for Roy's back then, huh? Well, he really needed to keep its existence secret, he said with a strange smile, having experienced it for himself finally. I'm sorry for forcing you to drink it. Even though it was to restore his mana, it probably didn't feel very good to have someone force you to drink something. I lowered my head only for him to shake his. No, thank you for helping me drink it. It was a big help. A wave of relief washed over me at his words. Should we have the others drink elixir seeds too? I asked, getting another headshake in reply. It would be okay if it was just Micah, but we need to hide it from the knights. Oh, why don't you try making a weaker version? A wonderful idea, Elle agreed, Donnie. Then how about I make it taste the same but only restore their mana by half? Should we add any other effects? No, that'll be fine, Lord Glenn shook his head again. Taking a deep breath, I clasped my hands together before casting I'll make a seed that restores the drinker's mana by half. Seed creation. With a pop, a little round green seed with a cork appeared. It was about half the size of an elixir seed. So you can make seeds without a blueprint now? Lord Glenn asked, eyes widened in shock as he blinked. I'd learned that a new blueprint is unnecessary if I'm making a seed based off of one I already know. I verified it by using my skill repeatedly over this half year. You've been working hard. Yes, I said, smiling, while he looked at me as if he was dazzled. After that, he looked over to the green seed. It's called an Alpo seed. Its effect is to restore the drinker's mana by half. It withers when planted. Since I had used the elixir seed as a base and only changed the effect, it also kept the part where it would wither if it was planted. After that, I made enough Alpo seeds for everyone who was sleeping. While Lord Glenn took care of the knights, I had Miss Micah drink it. After drinking the entire thing, she woke up rubbing her eyes. How do you feel, Miss Micah? Nothing feels off. But I taste something really yummy in my mouth. Why? I explained everything that had happened after she fainted. It really is delicious. You could take away all the effects and sell it as a normal drink, she said, flipping the Alpo seed upside down to get out the remaining drops. After waking up all the Guardian Knights with the seeds, Lord Glenn came back over to me. I used appraisal and they're all back to half mana. I was happy to know that I made the seed just as I wanted, but he gave me a bitter smile. I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to hide the existence of this one, too. That's fine. Why? I asked. Miss Micah responded, eyes sparkling and tail wagging. The mana potions on the market now only restore a set amount. But your seeds bring everyone back up to half mana. That'd be a steal for anyone with a big mana pool. So basically, anyone with a huge mana pool would want them badly. If you were ever kidnapped, they might just make you endlessly create Alpo seeds. We can't have that happening. Miss Micah punched her fist out as if she was attacking someone. I really didn't want that to happen, so I swore to myself that I'd hide the existence of the Alpo seeds too. Your Highness, thank you for saving us, the highest-ranking knight said, speaking for the group. Lord Glenn forced a smile onto his face at their thanks. I was the one to get you to drink them, but Chelsea is the one who made them in the first place, he told them, holding out an Alpo seed. We just talked about keeping them a secret, and you're telling them all? I looked between them and the knights. For some reason, he kept going on explaining in detail. To think that her skill is nothing less than miraculous. One of the knights cried, clasping their hands together and praying in my direction. Then please, allow us to thank Lady Chelsea again. Thank you, they all spoke up at once. While I stood there flustered, not knowing what to do, Lord Glenn laughed cheekily. They're all going to be your personal guards. One of the reasons I brought them was to introduce you. I'm going to have personal guards? Yeah, you're going to be his fiancée. You're going to be a freaking princess. Or a duchess, or whatever the heck is the case. He nodded. Personal guard knights and maids come with becoming the king's brother's fiancé. Embarrassed by the mention of our engagement, I looked downward. Since my hands had been placed together, I saw the engagement ring on my right hand. Not only did I get a defensive ring, but guards. I realized just how much I was treasured. I look forward to having you along, I said to the knights with a bow, and they saluted back. Afterward! Okay. I will get to work on editing all this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.